Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the one and only Turnbuckles, Trunks, and Titles. Now, I'm Nick, and this is definitely the man of the hour, the man with the power, too sweet to be sour. He's funky like a monkey. He's one of my closest friends. He's Cue Ball Carmichael. But in all seriousness, and I mean that, guys, I got a little something to play. This is coming directly from my boss. As you look at him to your right, his name just happens to be Cue Ball Carmichael. So first and foremost, Q, how are you tonight?
I'm great, Nick. How are you?
I'm well, my friend. Thank you. I'm going to play this. This is for our fans. This is for you. This is for all of your brothers and sisters in the business. And I just want you, I mean this, and this is from the bottom of my heart to everyone. That there was for you, Q, for all your friends and your family in the wrestling business. And first and foremost, I want you to know how sorry I am to hear the passing of your friend, Big Slam, Walt McDonald. And I'd like to just give you the mic and let you do your thing.
Well, Big Slam and I met each other a long time ago, back in 1988, and he was Crybaby Waldo, working in Larry Sharp and Dennis Corluzzo's promotion. And I ran into him at a gentleman's club, shall we say, and he was working the door. And I joked around with him, and I said, "Hey, man, we should tag up or something together sometime." And the irony, as fate puts people in other people's paths, within about 5 or 6 years, our worlds collided again, and we started wrestling on. The indie circuit of the '90s was sort of a morphed version of the territory days. We would go a lot of times to Pittsburgh on Friday night, and we would drive back to Goldsboro, North Carolina, or Raleigh, North Carolina on a Saturday night, and drive back to Pittsburgh on a Sunday afternoon, which is about a 1,200-mile drive round trip, going back and forth, back and forth. My house in Northern Virginia was in the middle, and Big Slam either lived in Jersey, where he was from, or he stayed in North Carolina for a while. So we'd always end up riding together. We'd throw Julio De Niro of ECW and TNA fame in there, a wise guy, Jimmy Cicero, a journeyman who, along with myself, trained Christian York and Joey Mercury. And we throw those guys in once in a while. And we really would have the same group. We'd meet up with Tom Brandy and a few other guys. And it was kind of the same guys Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night for years and years and years. And Walt was part of that clique. And, when he started to decline a little in health in the past few months, his wife Michelle reached out, included Tom Brandy, wise guy Jimmy Cicero, and myself, in emails updating his health information. And, unfortunately, he was very young, but he was a big guy, and he suffered from the same disorders as Bundy did. When King Kong Bundy, he was a big guy who was from the same area. I put those guys together many times against each other in my promotion, and traveled with those guys. And you get diabetes in there, and Walt developed COPD and had some heart trouble, and at the end he was really in failing health. And his wife Michelle kept me in the loop every single day. There was communication about Walt's condition. He spent the last month and a half of his life between a hospital and a hospice center, and nobody let on to him what was going on. But we all knew what the end result was going to be. At the end, his heart was working at 10%, and he just wasn't responsive. And it was sad for all of us that knew him and were close with him. But he had suffered for years with bad knees and a bad back and, health problems and issues. And so we kind of took forth from his passing that we would be determined to celebrate his life, not glorify his death or how he died. And instead, what we would do is, as I said, celebrate his life and understand that he's at a point now where he's not in pain anymore. He's been restored by our Lord and Savior, and he's 100% and healthy, and he's up there with Bundy and wrestling a match, and you got Chris Candido's up there, and the Public Enemy's up there, and Buddy Landel's on the ring apron screaming, "Take it home, boys!" And a lot of our good close friends are up there, and we just know that he's in good company now, and he's out of pain, and that's the solace that we take away from this. But Walt and I spent many, many years on the road together with Tom Brandy and Jimmy Cicero, and we're really inseparable. I mean, I've wrestled him literally hundreds of times in different combinations of singles and tag team matches. And the big tag team was King Kalua and myself against Tom Brandy and Walt in tag matches, and we wrestled all over. And Cicero and I tagging up against Walt and whoever he stuck himself with, Chili Willie or one of those guys. So, great memories, and that's what we're going to go with and celebrate here as we talk about, the great life of Big Slam Walt McDonald and, his family, his wife Michelle, his daughters Britt and Brett, and his son little Walter, and that's what we're gonna talk about, is discuss is the good times that we had together, because that's one of the things as you get older in this business is you tend to share your memories with each other, and that's really what you have. Walt and I fortunately stayed in touch until his health started to fail a couple of months ago, and would always text each other, stay up with each other, send a Facebook message or make a comment or something. So, even though with the COVID and things, it's impossible. Services are Thursday. If I leave, I'll get a 14-day quarantine from my job and won't be able to work. And, so it's very difficult to know that friends and family from up there are going to be at the services and I can't be, or I have to pay the price with my employment. That's really the environment and the situation in which we live in right now, unfortunately. So, I will choose to celebrate him on this show, and some of the stories that we can tell, and many of them that we can't tell on the air. But Big Slam always had this booming, deep baritone voice with a Jersey accent. He'd be like, "Yo, Q, hey, what you guys gonna do this weekend? Are we in Philly? Where we at?" He had that booming deep voice that everybody heard before they saw him. He was always the life of the locker room, the big jovial guy. Never saw him in a bad mood, and just shared many meals, many drinks, many hotel rooms with him. His snoring was off the chain. I remember one night pulling a mattress into a bathtub and ended up instead of trying to sleep on the mattress to avoid the snoring, I put it over my head to drown it out and slept in the bathtub. But that was Big Walt. We had some good times, man. I always joked with his wife, "That snoring though. I mean, how do you do it?" So it's one of those things. But I mean, it's it's a lot of great memories of being on the road. A lot of great sleepless nights driving. 250 miles from Pittsburgh, my house in Virginia, getting 2 hours of sleep, getting up and driving 300 miles to North Carolina to wrestle, driving back, sleeping an hour and a half, 2 hours in my house, getting something to eat, and driving another 250 miles back to Pittsburgh. So, a lot of miles on the road, literally hundreds of thousands of miles on the road. And, we were steady Eddie for a long time, and I remember. It was one of those things that, like he wrestled Brian Clark on one of the first events I ran, where we had $1,597 paid at Fairfax High School in Fairfax, Virginia, in 1995 in the main event. And, he looked very similar to Vader, and it was funny because fans were like, "I can't believe you had Adam Bomb and Vader on the show." And I'm like, I guess they didn't hear Big Slam come to the ring, but people are gonna assume what they want to assume. So, okay, whatever. But he
Yes.
was one of those big guys that wrestled a lot of big name guys. Him and Wahoo McDaniel are probably laughing together over a beer because they wrestled each other many times, and it's just great memories of another great brother that's gone to the big ring in the sky. So we'll choose to remember him like that. It's a little more peaceful
Absolutely.
for us, a little bit better for us. So
Absolutely it is. We have got like such a jam-packed show. We got Chris Glidden on the show in a little bit, who is the director of promotions and productions for IHW here in New Brunswick, Innovative Hybrid Pro Wrestling. Chris is a great guy. He's going to talk tonight a little bit about the fact that it was on CBC News that they are basically shutting it down for the rest of the year. They see no point, and I stand with IHW on this decision. We're going to talk a bit about that with him. He's not going to be on long, but we're going to just kind of touch base with him, see where his head's at. And, of course, Q, you and I had our topic for tonight, as everyone knows, it was the good, the bad, and the ugly in professional wrestling. It's going to be hard to hit on that topic. Obviously, we're talking about Big Slam right now, and God knows when you get talking about something that you're passionate about, we're stuck in that little zone, which is great. So if we don't get to it, or we only get to touch on it a little bit, we're going to touch on it next week. But I got to take a quick break. I want you to hang tight, and we're going to come back and talk more Big Slam right here on Turnbuckles, Trunks, and Titles.
Sounds good.
All right, we're back here on Turnbuckles, Trunks, and Titles on the Triple T Radio Network. I am Nick. That is Q. We're talking Big Slam. We're talking all sorts of great stuff. Q, tell me a couple other good stories when it came to Big Slam. I mean, just his name alone gives him a presence like no other. I mean, Big Slam. I'm thinking he's coming out, he's hurting someone.
Yeah, you got a guy that's 6'3" and 450 pounds that, in his youth moved like a cat. I mean, it was great. I wrestled him so many times. I remember one time where we had a build up to a match in Pikeville, North Carolina. We were there every month forever and packed the building, 600-700 people. And so him and I ended up in a main event match, and he was the champion. And I'm putting the heat on him. We end up outside, and he goes and gets a chair. And I see him coming as I'm getting up off the floor. And just as he gets to me to rail me with that chair, I kick him in the gut and I cut him off. And I take the chair and I hit him right square over the head with it. And he says in the back, he goes, "Yo, what was up with the chair gimmick?" I said, "Look, you hit me with it as big as you are, I might die. So I just decided to cut you off and let you get hit by a 250-pound guy with a chair." It just seemed more sense at the time to me. So he was pretty salty over that. He's like, "Oh, I was going to really hit you with it." I said, "I know you were. That's why I cut you off. I wasn't taking any chances with that thing." So, I mean, there's a lot of stories like that. He was at my house one time, and he was sleeping in the basement, 2-story house. We had a finished rec room in the basement. I took him down there. I'm like, "Yo, Slam, crash out here on the couch. You can sleep in a love seat, the couch, wherever you want. It opens up to a bed, whatever you want to do." And my oldest daughter gets up in the morning, and she says, "Dad, were you running a saw this morning in the basement?" And I'm like, "No, I wasn't running a saw." "Why?" She goes, "There's something running down there." And I opened up the door to get out of the basement, and you heard Big Slam down there snoring so loud. It sounded like somebody was running a power saw. I don't know. I said, "Honey, that's Big Slam." She goes like, "Oh, I should have known." It was just so funny. And then, I used to run, a lot of people know the IPWA, Independent Pro Wrestling Alliance, which Kevin Carson and I ran from 1995 to 2001. We ran in 7 different states, had capacity crowds at our local building, which was the Secret Cove Arena, which had everybody from the Headbangers to the late Axel Rotten and Balls Mahoney to Buddy Landell was the champion for a while. I mean, Jimmy Cicero, Joey Mercury, Christian York, Julio De Niro, Pat Kenny, Lance Diamond, Steve Carino started with me. Just had a incredible roster of talent there. And Big Slam worked for me every month, and we always found a spot for him. And he calls me one time. He's like, "Yo, Q." I said, "Yeah, what's up?" And he goes, "Is there any way I could get unbooked from the show in 2 weeks?" I said, "Why? What's going on?" He's like, "Yo, there's this Mark promoter." Now, you got to understand that in the mid-'90s, there wasn't a lot of those guys. He goes, "Yo, there's this Mark promoter that's running his show in a parking lot. And he's going to pay me," and he named some ridiculous amount of money, right, to come in and wear a mask and do a Vader gimmick. And I said, "Well, you're my buddy, first off, so of course, I mean, if you could get, 8 times what I'm paying you for going up there and doing that," I said, "Yeah." I said, "Just next time, take me with you." So he ends up going up and doing the gig, and we fill his spot with some storyline. I forget what it was. So the next time the guy runs, he calls me and goes, "Hey, he's going to run next month. You want to get on the show?" I said, "Well, what's he going to pay me?" And he told me, and I said, "Absolutely, man. I'll tell you what, I'll meet you in Breezewood, Pennsylvania. We'll jump in a car together. We'll go the rest of the way up there." And we did. And, the guy drew 1,000 people in a grocery store parking lot. How he promoted it, I don't know. But he always had these massive crowds. And it was just insane. So we worked for this guy probably on and off for about a year. And, until he ran out of money or left the business, I forget what. But, we were paid ridiculous amounts of money. Of course, back then, if you did a big show with 1,000 people, everybody had merchandise. Big Slam had a gimmick table about 10 feet long he took with him and packed with merchandise. And I did basically T-shirts, but I mean, on a big show, Tom Brandy would sit there across from me, and I'd sell 3 to 5 dozen T-shirts that I paid $5 a piece for $20. I would make $700-800 in gimmick sales on a show where I was making back then $150-200. You walk away with $1,000 night in your pocket, for doing one of those shows. So we always love to do them. The guy says, look, the grocery store is buying the show. There's going to be a lot of people there. They're giving away free stuff. We would always take those shows because we knew, even though payday was decent, that the gimmick sales were going to be huge. And Big Slam was the king of gimmicks, man. Him and Tom Brandy both. I mean, they just had unbelievable gimmick tables. Tom would always ask the promoter, let Q and I wrestle, right before intermission. And Tom, I was always a heel, and Tom and I would wrestle all over the place. And we'd do some big finish. He'd catch me out of nowhere, do a finish, crowd would pop, and Tom would go right straight, all sweaty, to the gimmick table where I got carried in the back by 2 referees like I was dead. And Tom would go over and sell gimmicks and Polaroids and stuff, and Slam would be over there selling his gimmicks, and they would kill it. But, whenever I wrestled one of those guys and put them over, they would always come back and throw me a few bucks the way we did business back in the day, Guy goes to $500 to the table, he throws you 50 or 75 bucks because if it wasn't for you getting him over, he wasn't going to do those kind of sales. So, that was the way of the world back then. It wasn't every guy out for himself and screw the other guy. There was actually a sort of a team mentality back then when you worked together.
Oh, you mean that like today? Yeah, the difference between 2020 and 1995.
Yeah, 1995 and 2020, 2 different worlds, 2 different kind of wrestlers, 2 different sizes of people. I always tell the story that when I first knocked on the door to get in the business, excuse me, I was 6'1" and 220 pounds, and they laughed at me because I was too small. They said, "No, go put some size on." So I managed to get up to 6'2" and like 250. And 5 years later, I go train with Lou Thez, and I go down to Thez, and he says, "Oh, you're too heavy. You need to get down to 220." I'm like, "Wait, I'm getting confused." First, the Samoans told me I was too small in Hawaii 5 years ago. Now I get some size, and you're telling me I'm too big. I don't know what's going on. So,
fancy that.
Yeah, I know, right? It just depends on who you go see on any given day, I guess. But yeah,
this is true.
Big Slam was trained by Larry Winters, who was a great Larry Winters, and a guy named DC Drake had amazing feuds together all throughout the Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, Boston, Maryland area from probably 1986 to like 1992 or 1993. Those guys just fought each other all over the place. And Larry, a lot of people thought Slam trained at the Monster Factory, but Larry Winters actually trained him, not Larry Sharp. And both have passed. So, again, he's in good company. So
sad, though. So sad how many of our brothers and sisters have passed away.
Well, I had this conversation today with somebody, and I said, the grim reality of it is, in the wrestling business, for somebody to live to be my age is an anomaly. For somebody
You're
to
right.
25, 30 years out there doing this every weekend, filling in for WWE for 4 years and just traveling all over the place. I mean, it's Tom Brady had this conversation, a lot. It's just, it's an anomaly for anybody to be over 53 or 54 and still be alive. And I just hit 60. So for me, it's a miracle I'm still alive. But
it is a miracle.
I know. I get up every day and I thank God for giving me another day when so many of my brothers didn't get that extra day. So
this is true.
But I tend to take fairly good care of myself, and so that doesn't hurt.
No, and that's important.
Well, it is important. Last week I went out, it was 90 degrees, and I had to burn off a little frustration and steam, and I had went I think one day I ran 2 miles, and Another day I ran like 1.1 mile. It was real hot. And then I went out the day after I got the news, the big slam, and I ran 3 miles just to get the frustration out and, get my mind away from it. Because when I'm running, I don't think about anything but I go somewhere else. So, it was important for me to get out and get some miles in that day. And, the lovely Rand went out with me, which was a big help. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
It was great. She's much younger and can run me into the dirt. I can't run fast, but I can run forever. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Hey, if it works, I'm there. That sounds good to me.
There you go, brother.
What I need to do is we got to take a quick break, and then we're going to have Chris Glidden join us. We're going to talk a little bit. So am I. I'm really looking forward to it. So
I did a lot of research on them today. I'm real excited about it.
I'm looking forward to it. I know he's not on long. We got him 15 minutes. I've got questions. I know you probably have a couple as well. So you hang tight. Try not to disappear on me. All right, guys, we're back here on Turnbuckles, Trunks, and Titles. I am Nick. This is Q, and we're being joined by a very special guest, Chris Glidden. Welcome to the show, brother. How are you?
Good. How are you guys? Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, thanks for coming on, man. You are making the news everywhere, and I'm glad you're here to talk. The first and foremost, so the director of promotions, productions of IHW. You're a very busy man, not to mention, and we're going to talk a little bit about your 2 podcasts you do. I appreciate you coming on here to talk a bit with us. So, what is going on, brother? You guys are off. You're done for the year. How tough of a decision was that to make?
It was really, really hard. I'm one of a team of owners, I guess, for the company. So, we talked it over. I met with Julian, I met with Titus, and we talked it over and talked it over and talked it over. And then we talked it over some more. And we finally just made the decision. We've got vulnerable people even in our own families that are that we have to think about, and think about some of the fans and things like that, and whether or not also it's profitable to run a wrestling show with the various restrictions that we would have to follow here in New Brunswick. And it was a tough decision, but we felt it was necessary at the time, and we're just sitting back. We're planning a really strong 2021, and it's I actually just had a meeting today with somebody interested in helping us out in 2021. So it's we're really excited. I think it's all I've done today is have meetings. Most of them nothing to do with wrestling, but most of them are band related. But it's a whole because I need more things to do. Yeah.
Hey, Chris brought it up, not me, but your cover of Highwayman, brother. I know that song.
It's a good song.
I know. It's a great song. And so I'm scrolling through IHW and I'm looking and I'm getting, some information so I can talk intelligently about you guys. By the way, Moncton Lions Club, great building, huge building, beautiful building. What a great place to run. You guys are so fortunate. I mean, it's going to be great when you start up again. You've got enough of a history. We're going to do well. But then I scroll through a little bit of you playing Highwayman, and I'm like, wow. I thought I was the only guy that knew that song, to be honest with you. That's a great song.
It is a wonderful song. I have a friend, actually, my neighbor. I don't know why I'm pointing. I point at things, and he can't even see it on the screen. I just realized, so it doesn't matter. I could be doing anything with my hands. My neighbor is a musician. Is a local country musician, and he's in a band called the Divorcees, and they do a version of the Highwayman, Highwayman. And he actually does the four voices. Like he'll do an impersonation of all four of them. And it's quite interesting. It's my favorite country song about murderers, pirates, dam construction, space travel, and reincarnation.
And sailors. I mean, how can you beat it, right? I mean, it's the perfect combination of everything in one song. Mean, you go from a coal truck driving truck driver to being in outer space in the same song with everything. I mean, it's a classic. I've always liked that song, and so I listened to the whole cover. Thought you did a great job, man.
Oh, thank you, appreciate it.
I watched all your recent media coverage with the news, and look, I always say this. The most difficult decision you're making in your life is the right decision. And with everything that's going on, I think you guys made the right decision with moving to just doing everything new and starting in 2021 when this whole virus thing is behind us. And you don't want to expose anybody. Like you said, you got family and things to consider and concerns to think about, and to think about the fans and their well-being. And, I was impressed because down here in the States, I keep seeing people saying, "Oh, we're going to run in September, we're running in October." I'm like, look, why don't you guys just plan on running in 2021 and be safe and protect everybody. And just worry about doing it then. So I think you guys made the absolute right decision in what you're doing. And I know it's not easy. You guys had traction. You've been around for a long time. You'll get it again. Things will pick up. If anything, maybe you'll get some, like you had meetings today, maybe you'll get some new people to help you out, new sponsors, things like that. But I'm sure next year you guys will be packing the Lions month. And so
I hope so. And like you said, it's a big building where right now we're on board with the helping to save the Lions, or not save the Lions, but helping to create something new with the Lions Club, I guess. The Lions Club needs to evolve. And it's struggling right now because they can't have events at all. Right. And, there's a production company working out of the Lions Club now, and we're doing some work with them. So, So one of the meetings I had today, besides that one, was one with my band. We're going to run some concerts, and apparently I'm going to do some music promotion while I'm in my wrestling promotion off time. Because why take a break?
Hey, why? But one thing that Q said right there though was traction. And the first thing that comes to mind is you guys on Fight, the streaming platform. You guys held one of your biggest shows of the year on there as a pay-per-view, and a lot of people don't realize that that's a big deal because, number one, there's a lot that comes with that. I mean, you guys, and I can say this because I've been there and I've seen it personally, put on the absolute best production, Maritimes, I don't care. I've seen it. It is amazing from start to finish. And, so to not be able to do that this September, I mean, I can see where that hurts. I mean, it always hurts anytime you're not able to put on any show, but this show being the biggest show of the year. So what is the plan? Like, are all the guys will be back next year, I would assume, the majority?
I hope so. It's hard to predict that because some people might be moving on to whatever other thing they've started doing during this time. But, I think we have a pretty solid base when it comes to our talent. Our talent base is very solid. They typically, we don't have to worry about them going anywhere, and then we can bring people and work around that afterwards. Giving, not names per se, because we're known for, not bringing in name wrestlers and building up what we have. Although occasionally we do, because we brought in Colt Cabana and things like that.
Yeah, but you made it
for our pay-per-view.
Yeah, you made it. Don't listen. One thing about you guys, you can never you can't discredit the guys that you guys have made, because man, you guys have made some amazing stars that we talk about to this day. Yeah, I just had to get that out there.
I looking at the pay-per-view, because we did have a pay-per-view planned for September. Looking back at that, or looking forward, I guess, where that would have been, it is a bit painful, but it's, especially after doing it last year, but we still have about 20 weeks of wrestling in the can that we can use for Fight TV for the next 20 weeks.
Nice.
So, because no matter where we go, since I've taken over the company over the last 2 years, we film everything. And we weren't doing that before. And I said, we film everything. And then, I'm the one who does most of the play-by-play anyway, so I take it home, I edit the show, I do the play-by-play, and that's after 12 hours, I have 3 episodes, and my family hates me. So it's, it's the way it goes. I got to work, but Fight has been really accommodating. I got really, really busy somehow during all of the shutdowns and everything. I ended up getting really busy, so I've slowed down on my weekly shows. They've been really patient. They've been really helpful. They said, just get it to us when you get it to us, and you'll still have your time slot. And, so I've got, like I said, about 20 weeks or so of never before seen on TV stuff.
Nice. That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Hey, I heard your band plays at my favorite bar up there, the Old Triangle Irish Ale House. Is that true?
We do, yeah. I love the Old Triangle. It's one of my favorite places to play. Actually, might even. Well, I'm going to go with one of. There's a little tiny bar that we play called Nita's that I really like too. But
dive bars are the best, man. Dive bars are the best, especially if you're a live band, man. It's great. Yeah. Well, as Nick knows, if the election goes the wrong way down here in the States, I will be moving up there again. So I'll be back in Canada.
I don't blame you, depending on which way you lean. Either way, I don't blame you. I like it here.
Yeah. Look, I love Canada. I spent a lot of time up there. I'm actually born there and raised in New York State. But I was born over in a different province. I was born in St. Catharines. So,
Ontario, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to just kind of let the fans know how busy Chris really is. So, here's a guy who's running bands. You just heard him say about meetings after meetings, okay? So he's making sure stuff is ready for you guys on Fight TV, stuff like that. Not to mention the director of promotions and productions and, the play-by-plays. And, also, Chris, you do podcasts. The Lukewarm Seat. Tell me a little about that. And I want to talk to you about your other one. But What is the lukewarm seat all about?
Well, we're having fun with it. It's part of the TPC network, which is my podcast network that I own with Brian Langell and his wife Susan Langell. And the lukewarm seat is myself and Josh Ruxtol, pro wrestling referee. Some people know him as Squishy. I love Josh. He just had a baby. Oddly, the podcast has absolutely nothing to do with wrestling. We don't even talk about wrestling. We talk about everything else. The main thing, the main thing with our show is we call it #DadPod. So it's all about being a dad, and it's about pop culture too. Like we talk about pop culture, and he'll quiz me on music, and we've interviewed a few hockey player or former hockey players and some musicians. We interviewed the Stanfields, the divorcees from here in Moncton. We interviewed Eddie Lack, the goalie, and we interviewed Paul Bissonnette,
Nice.
Mr. Biznasty. And a few others. So we're doing interviews, and along with talking about pop culture and talking about being a dad. And he just his baby was just born, so we've been off for a couple weeks because he's leaning into being a dad now. And we finish every episode with a dad joke. We have a great time. It's we have an awful lot of fun.
When can we catch that show?
That drops every Friday.
Nice.
So it drops on Spotify and on your Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher.
And what's Rants and Races?
All right, Rants and Raves on Comic Book Trades is not a family-friendly podcast. It's very much not safe for work. We talk about comic book trades, so it'd be graphic novels is what the common term for it is. And we do a comic review once a month, whenever we can get together. It drops on one Friday a month, who knows when, on all of the podcasting platforms, and just whenever we can get together. And it's a big group of us. It's myself, Pat, who is in a band called Johnny Deathwish. There's the owner of the comedy club here in Moncton, Hell's Basement Comedy Club, Shannon. We have Joe and Nicole and Nathan from the Motor League. I don't know if you're familiar with the Motor League, but they're a local band here. They won a few awards, and and Matt's there. Matt Sret's there too, which he won't listen to this, but if he does, that's gonna be real funny.
Look, there's no better podcast than a couple of buddies with 3 or 4 buddies just sitting around having fun. I mean, that's what people. There's enough news and informative podcasts in the world. Typically, Nick and I don't do a lot of guests. We just sit around, and occasionally we'll get the pro wrestling in there.
Yeah, exactly. And we just talk about our books. So everybody gives a review. Everybody makes fun of everybody else's reviews, and a lot of swearing and terrible things said, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. We do it in a bar, so usually we're drinking. So.
Oh, nice! That's awesome.
It's good times. Yep.
I love it. What's going on? Do you have anything you want to plug? Anything like that
man.
upcoming? Please, this is your moment. Please tell us everything.
What don't I want to plug? Let's obviously check out IHW Wrestling. Or I think that's what the link is. I should know these things, right? Like, I
think it is still IHW Wrestling.
Innovative Hybrid Wrestling on YouTube. Check it out. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's from March 13th until the end of, or I guess early May. I put up 150 different videos of IHW, right from the first year 2005 right up until the current episode of TV. And I mean, check that out. Check out my band Flea Market Underground on Facebook or wherever. We actually just dropped our first single called again, things I shouldn't stutter on, called Broke Down Cell. It's our first original single. So I got a lot of stuff going on. If you want to see us do a full show, we just played on it's called the SSI Soundstage. So if you go on Facebook, they streamed it on Facebook. It was brought to you by a local shop here, Nerdful Things. And it was an awesome show. It was amazing. It was just like this. It looks like this massive TV production, and they're doing this stream online. But it's SSI Moncton, I think, on Facebook is how to find it. Facebook.com/SSI Moncton, and check out our stream that we did on there because we had a blast, and it was just I know I'm the rock star Chris Cole in some views, but they made me feel like a real rock star. It was really cool.
That's awesome.
What else
man.
do I have? What else do I have? I have so much. I'm the busiest human being. What's that?
10 or less.
10 or less. 10 or less minutes.
Plugs.
10 or less plugs. I think that's everything I'm doing. Yeah. Go buy my, go buy my music.
Oh my God, voice.
Yeah. So good. So good.
Listen, Chris, I really appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your time to do this and come on here. Means a lot, man.
I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, we'll talk soon.
For sure.
Stay strong.
Take care, guys.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, Q, let's go to a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about Big Slam. All right, we are back. And I am Nick, joined alongside my brother, Mr. Q Ball Carmichael. Q, what do you think of Chris?
A great guest, a lot of fun, great attitude. You know, like I said, I researched him. I saw him singing Highwayman, which is an old country song with 4 different guys singing it originally, 4 different voices in there. And when I heard it, I was like hooked. I'm like, this guy's got to be a cool dude. And then he was on this show, and I'm like, look, he's welcome anytime. I'm a great guest. Does a lot of great work. And, you know, a lot of stuff that he didn't cover. He does a lot of charity work. He's involved in a lot of charity work, too. And I saw that behind the scenes with the Moncton's Lion Club and stuff like that. So he's a really good guy that's trying to do things to better the community he lives in, too, which is great. And you know, they got a great history of running wrestling shows, great history of being at the Moncton Lions Club. And, you know, just I thought he was fun. I thought he was great, you know.
Chris is a really nice guy. You know, I've had the opportunity to be around him a lot and even watch him with the play-by-play and the production. And, you know, he's a sweetheart of a guy. He's funny. He's very laid back and, you know, he knows IHW like the back of his hand. You know, he's just so good with it. He loves the business. And you're right. When it comes to charities, man, he's it. Like, you know, he loves that stuff. He's all about it.
Yeah, I've adopted the more laid-back lifestyle lately, if you noticed. If you go back 6, 7, 8 years when I used to come on your old show, I was wound up pretty tight back in those days. I have changed my culture, man. I just like, you know, somebody will say something insultive on Facebook, and I'd be like, hey, I appreciate your comment, and I respect your opinion. And there you go. And, you know, 7, 8 years ago, they would have got a fight out of me, but I'm like, look, if that's their opinion, they're entitled to it. I'm not going to try to change it. And if you hate me, you hate me. If you love me, you love me. If you're in between, you're in between. There's nothing I can do to change that. You know, right. Like back in the day, people would come up and they'd go, and I'm going back 25 or 30 years. They come back and they go, hey, is wrestling real? I'd be like, well, what do you think? And they'd be like, well, I think a lot of it's real, but I think you guys know who's going to win. And I'm like, let me ask you something. Since you're asking me such a personal question, how old are you? They'd be like 30. I'm like, well, if you're 30 and you've already made up your mind, how am I going to possibly stand here in 5 minutes and talk you out of your opinion on it? Yep, and would that even be right to do? And they're like, oh, well, look, I know you guys really get hurt. I said, yeah, we do. We do really get hurt. That is the truth, you know. And or they'd come up and they'd have a different opinion. Same question. I'd listen to them. and hear him out, because even though I was a heel, I wasn't the type of guy like late Jim the Anvil Neidhart would just look at him and tell them to go F themselves.
Yes, he
You
would.
know?
Yeah.
I know I was with him. I've been with him in a bar when he's done it to people. So I know. But, and bless his heart, that's who he was. He was a heel 24/7, 365. So, with me, it's a little bit different. Is I had to live in some of the communities in which I was probably had my largest wrestling localized fame in. I had to live in that community. So, no matter what I would be on any given night, I would still be somewhat relatable to the people. If I was a heel, I'd be a little more hard nosed. If I was a baby face, I'd be a lot more relaxed with them. You want to still maintain that decorum or that attitude, but you don't have to be rude to people. But when people take the time to buy a ticket and come to an event and see me later that week and want to ask me a question, I would be happy to take 5 minutes of my time and answer their question, because without them, you don't have any wrestling show. And, we had a really unique thing happen. Some guy came to us about 2 years into running at the Secret Cove, which we had a 5-year run there. And he said, look, I want to put you on Sportsnet, the Fairfax Sports Network, Fairfax County, Virginia, very big, right outside of Washington, D.C. I mean, a couple of million people. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, now it's public access, so there won't be any money. I'm like, okay. And he goes, and we want to call the matches. I'm like, okay. He goes, but we'd like to put you on. So this is how life changes in the flash of a moment. They run us every week for a month. Now, during that month I'm traveling, I'm not home much. And I figure public access, nobody's going to watch this, So the following week, I go to the same bowling alley that I went to bowl, because I had a choice of being a pro wrestler or a pro bowler. I had a very high average and well into the 200s, and I made the choice to wrestle. And probably at this age, I probably should have bowled. But anyway,
we'll talk about that next week.
I know. I walked in there, and people saw me and flocked to me. And I'm like, what in the hell is going on? And the guy behind the desk goes, hey, saw you on Fairfax Sports Network. I'm like, yeah. And he goes, did you guys know you're the #1 rated show on their sports network? And
wow.
I'm thinking, I didn't know they had more than one. But then I realized after talking to guys, they covered all the local high school football. Now, if you ever saw Remember the Titans with Denzel Washington,
that was
West Potomac. It was West Potomac, Hayfield, and the school that they were at, I forget, but those were all in the same district. They play each other all the time. So that movie was set in that area. So high school football is huge there. So they covered all high school football teams from all local high schools. They covered basketball. They covered high school wrestling. They covered hockey. They covered professional sports with the Redskins and everything else. And we were the #1 rated show on their network. And
wow.
I didn't, so literally couldn't go out in public in Fairfax County, Virginia, without being recognized for that period of time that they covered us. And I'm like, I looked at my ex-wife and I said, man, poor Hogan, he must never get a break wherever he goes. Because just being at home now and going to Walmart was like people were just coming up to me going, hey, I saw you on the wrestling show. You're Cubo. And I'd be like, what the hell is going on? And that little bit of, 15 minutes of fame can really change your life. I had it happen in Pittsburgh because I wrestled for 3 promotions at television: Steel City, Allied Powers, United States Championship Wrestling, and one other one thrown in the mix, USWA, whatever. But, I never had it happen where I lived, where I would go out in shorts and a T-shirt, and people would be like, hey, I know you.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh, there you go again. So something that small can change your life. And as a wrestler, everybody wants to be famous, right? Be careful what you ask for.
Yep.
Because it was very localized, but it was very intense. So, and Big Slam was part of that too. I mean, all the other guys that would come down to that area, stop to get gas or get food, and they would all get recognized. It wasn't just me. I just happened to live there. So I got, more of it than a lot of guys. So it's amazing what a little tiny TV show can do for a wrestling promotion in an area. And these guys at IHW are smart. They've got good sound system. They got good lighting. They've got good production values. They have good talent. And on top of that, they have good lighting, which is important. They say in filming, lighting's everything. And it truly is. True. Lighting and music, a good sound system, a good production, and good talent equals a good product. So
we
have the best producer in podcasting or YouTube or internet, Facebook Live, named Nick London, who does these amazing commercials and videos and shows our merchandise. And by the way, fans, if you haven't yet, please head over to YouTube, go to TripleTRadio space live, all in caps, TripleTRadio, one word, space live, also one word, on YouTube. Please grab one of our videos, hit like, and please subscribe to the channel because it really helps us out to get our word out there, get advertised with YouTube, and to be able to get some more merchandise to be able to offer you guys at better prices by helping us out on YouTube. So if you're listening on Facebook tonight, please head over to YouTube, TripleTRadio over there, space live, all caps, and hit like and subscribe, please, for us, and watch a video or two. And check out Truthbusters, too, which is coming back this week at a new time. I don't know for sure if it's going to be Wednesday or Thursday night as I reach out to John, even as we speak, to get a hold of him. Well, he's another guy that's, what a lot of people don't realize is John owns a car lot. He's got 2 kids in college, He's an underwater Himalayan folk dancer on the weekends, and people don't know that. So, he's a pilot. He dog races where he actually rides the dog in the race and, things like that. So he's really busy. So he's got to pick it. But we'll be back this week with Truthbusters.
Yeah.
So stay tuned, guys. It'll either be Wednesday or Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, 9 p.m. if you're Atlantic time, of course, 7 p.m. for Central, and do the math for Pacific because I can't, because I'm a wrestler.
Q, thank you so much. I love chatting with you once again. 1 hour flew by like nothing.
Wow. Unbelievable. Fastest hour of the week.
Next week, the good, the bad, the ugly, and independent professional wrestling.
Make sure you get the Clint Eastwood soundtrack from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly and play it.
I will. Then they'll throw that off YouTube as well. Who cares?
Thanks everybody for watching and listening, and head over to YouTube for us. We appreciate it. Peace out.